Ladies and gents, welcome back. I don't normally do this, but sometimes I get an email from a viewer that just, well, hits me hard, and I want to bring up the subject just as they brought it up themselves. So this morning, I'm just going to be reading from this email and addressing what the comment's actually saying. Hello, sir. I watch your videos. They're enlightening. And more Canadians should know about politics and the consequences of their actions and inactions of Parliament. I thought it might be a subject that needed to be addressed. It was the recruitment numbers of the people going into law enforcement, military service, and cybersecurity intelligence services. This will have consequences. If less Canadians want to protect this nation, then who will? Also, maybe add that corruption in federal and provincial governments, specifically Liberals in Ontario and Quebec, need to be put to a stop immediately. If not, what's the point of having laws and rules in a society if the ones creating laws don't follow it themselves or bypass it? I would like to hear what you think about this idea, good or bad. I'm a veteran who, and I redacted this because I didn't want this person to get in trouble, what they do, and knows that espionage is real and Canada is not ready to defend themselves in a cyber world. So sorry if you didn't want to be anonymous. I know this is a private email, so I left a bit of anonymity there for you. But let's get into this. Now, recently we heard revelations from a former head of CSIS themselves, Michel Juneau-Katsuya, and this is what he had to say about how deep this infiltration actually has found itself when it comes to the influence from China in regards to maybe cybersecurity and influence from foreign governments within our own government themselves.
So today, I want to be very clear, and I want to be very clear. We can prove that every federal government, from Mr. Mulroney to Mr. Trudeau, have been compromised by agents of the Communist China. Every government were informed at one point or another. Every government choose to ignore CSIS warning either by negligence, self-interest, or partisanship. Every government were infiltrated by agents of influence acting on behalf of the Chinese government, and we knew who they were. Every government took decisions that are questionable about China and can only be explained by interference exercised from within or motivated by self-interest.
So you went on to say that, well, basically, people deserve jail time for what has gone on. And CSIS is there to give recommendations to the political elite, and they're doing nothing with this information that they're getting. And this is going along those lines. Now, articles across the board have been showing that it's absolutely corrupted, the system that we have here. Instead of an inquiry, the RCMP goes after the leaker. So we're not even going to have an inquiry, a public inquiry into this. This from True North News. Now, even the left is upset about this. The Toronto Star is saying insider who leaked foreign interference secrets should be praised, not punished. This is a bipartisan thing, but there seems to be so much corruption in this. Now, to get to the point about people not wanting to, not signing up, this is something that is happening across the board, and mainstream media news sources are talking about this. Nearly 9% of BC RCMP jobs are vacant, what the force says it's doing about it. We have more articles. RCMP recruiting crisis cited in report adds wrinkle to Surrey police decision. RCMP, this from CBC News, RCMP recruitment plight could threaten its ability to do its job, advisory board warns. And this is an ongoing issue in Canada because, well, we see that there has become a massive demoralization within the police force for being able to do its job. Whether it's political leaders who've been praising this defund the police platform, this crazy leftist idea that came out of Black Lives Matter in the United States, which of course has gone bankrupt after all of those donations to it. And you can look up good YouTube channels like the Lotus Eaters and a few others have been talking about what's going on with that. So I'll leave that to them to report on. But reporting from Canada, this is where a lot of the demoralization comes from. And Pierre Poilievre was speaking to a reporter that even some of the reporters and the people on the left don't even really realize what the situation is. And this is where there's a problem, when you can't really point out what the problem is. And this is why politicians like Pierre Poilievre are gaining in popularity as of recently, because of, well, their stance and just how absurd some of the questions are here.
When you talk about bail, the crime has already happened, or the alleged crime has already happened. So how can you attribute bail to this increase in crime and not, should there not be more supportive measures to prevent the crime in the first place?
Well,
if you're talking about someone being on bail, they've already allegedly committed the crime. So where,
they're committing crimes on bail.
It's really that easy.
That's the problem. The problem is, I'll give you an example. In Vancouver, the same 40 offenders were arrested 6,000 times in a year. That's 150 arrests per offender per year. Why? Because they're arrested in the morning, then they're released on bail by noon, they reoffend, they're back in jail by 2 in the afternoon, and then they're released by the evening so that they can commit their final crime before they go to bed.
It's a failure of the system to not support people who have committed crimes, gone to jail, served their sentence, and then they're committing another crime. So is this not a failure of things like social services and support for people who have committed crimes?
Are you serious?
I'm asking you a
No,
question.
I mean, are you serious? Come on. You're telling me, no, excuse me, let me answer your question. Are you honestly saying that it's society's fault if a repeat violent offender commits 60 or 70 offenses? I think that criminal is to blame for his own actions. He is personally responsible. We're not talking about some kid who made one mistake when he was 19. We're talking about people who do 60, 70 violent offenses.
Why do those people
And then
commit
they're,
those offenses?
because they're criminals.
But why are they criminals?
Because they do crime.
And why do they do crime?
Because we let them out early on bail.
So because they
I
got
think we've
let
solved
out,
the riddle here.
because they got let out early on bail.
That's right.
They then commit the crime.
That's right.
So
That's what all the experts agree is the cause of the crime.
had they stayed in jail the
So gonna leave the semantics here. So essentially, we have a situation where there are people in society. There is always a small group in society where there's a criminal element, and those people need to be put behind bars. And this is just the reality of the situation. It creates a massive demoralization when you have these people out committing crimes as they continue. And, these people are committing crimes against people and also against police officers. And this is what's caused a lot of the demoralization in police enforcement in Canada and in the Western world as a whole, as everything has been moving leftwards. And there's a recent documentary, and I'll leave a link in the description down below so you can check out the whole documentary, but it's called Canada is Dying, and it speaks to exactly where this demoralization comes from.
Problem has gotten so bad in British Columbia that the mayors of the 13 largest municipalities wrote to then Attorney General, now Premier David Eby, literally begging the government to do something. They shared data that showed just 207 of the most prolific offenders in the province were responsible for more than 11,000 negative interactions with police in the last year alone. A catalyst for surging crime and violence that has not been limited to large metropolitan cities like Vancouver, but has also affected much smaller municipalities, including Victoria, Kelowna, and the once peaceful Vancouver Island city of Nanaimo.
Recent numbers show severe crime up 44% here in Nanaimo.
I don't feel safe. It's the first time I carry a knife now.
I will pull this, and it's an alarm for me to feel safe.
So anyway, please go watch that full documentary. I'll leave a link in the description down below, and you can check that out. But yes, there is a political move to try to get away from this demoralization that's been happening. And the reason why a lot of people are not signing up, people don't want to get involved themselves in a situation where they're not going to be backed up by the government that is assigned them the job of enforcing the laws in the country, whether it comes to political interference and the enforcement of laws based on corruption in government, or just right down to crime that happens on the streets. If they're not backed up and they're not able to do their job, it creates a tremendously demoralizing situation. And it's just not, there's little incentive for people to join these forces. And this is absolutely something that the writer of this email was getting to, and I believe it was getting to. So I hope this this video is really addressing the point that was brought up in this email, and I hope this can continue to be a discussion in the comment section down below. I'm going to leave you off here with Pierre Poilievre talking about, well, just what it is that his incentives are for bringing this legislation that he's proposing.
First of all, what I'm proposing would ultimately lead to less people being locked up. During the previous Conservative government, the incarceration levels went down because we targeted the repeat violent offenders with stiffer jail penalties. Now, and we gave rehabilitation to a young person who made a mistake to get them fixed up and back out into a good life. That makes sense. But we're talking here, do you know, here's the good news. We have very few criminals in Canada. It's a tiny minority. Like I said, in Vancouver, if you took those 40 offenders off the street, you'd have 6,000 fewer people hit over the head with a baseball bat or stabbed at a transit station. It's just 40 people. So take the worst, most chronic reoffenders, put them behind bars. Is there homelessness? Yes. Trudeau has caused housing costs to double. Naturally, because of the misery that his woke economic policies have caused people, particularly the poorest people, there's more homelessness, there's more mental health breakdown, there's more misery than ever before. People are asking for help with medical assistance and dying because they can't afford the cost of food. That is what you're going to get when you increase the cost of government and you drive up inflation, taxes, and interest rates. It's also what you're going to get when you legalize crack, heroin, and cocaine, as Trudeau and the NDP have done in BC, and it's exactly what you're going to get when you use tax dollars to give out free, hard drugs to addicts. All of this has caused the phenomenon of everything being broken after 8 years of Justin Trudeau. My common sense plan will bring down inflation and housing prices by capping the cost of government, removing the gatekeepers to build homes people can afford, and by putting the most serious violent offenders in jail. And we're going to ban hard drugs and stop giving out tax-free narcotics, instead give people treatment.
That's right. So yeah, treatment is the way to go forward, and bringing back, a morality. You need to morality and morale. The morale needs to be increased before you're going to see people wanting to join these forces. I hope this addressed the concerns in the email, and I hope this can, again, bring more discussion on this subject, because I think this is something that all Canadians need to be talking about, because it is so core to the safety and security of our society as a whole. So leave a comment in the comment section down below, and we'll see you in the next one. Keep on trucking.